everyone, and welcome to Inside Sailtrek SOC. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I'm very pleased to welcome my guest, Sheila Ruffin. She is the boss at Soca Caribbean Yacht Charters. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Well, I have had the pleasure of interviewing you in the past, of course, on different podcasts. So for those that don't know anything about you, let's introduce you to this audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Sheila, and of course about Soca Caribbean Yacht Charters.
Absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. As stated, I'm Sheila Ruffin, the boss of Soca Caribbean Yacht Charters. We are a yacht vacation travel agency that coordinates stress-free, personalized, all-inclusive yacht vacations in the Caribbean. I am currently located in Washington, D.C. area of the U.S. I am from Virginia's Eastern Shore, which is a peninsula surrounded by the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. And that's where I became familiar with boating. My grandfather, whose nickname was Big Rich, he was an avid boater on the Chesapeake Bay. And so growing up around boating, fishing, that was just something that I took into my adulthood.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, you started up your company just a couple of years ago, just prior to the whole situation, the pandemic, as it were, around the world. And you had just started to sort of get picked up and you were seeing, great potential. And then the pandemic hit. And I know that you suffered along with everybody else within the Caribbean. How was that time for you? And how do you see it happen? What's going on now with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. I started my company in January of 2019. And so most of that year was, the beginning stages of starting my company, picking out, colors for my company, getting my website together, hiring a website developer, website designer, coming up with marketing tools, marketing strategies, advertising materials. And so for about several months, that was my life. And then in October of 2019, things kind of shifted for the better. I was a first-time exhibitor at the United States Sailboat Show in Annapolis, Maryland, and that is one of the largest in-water boat shows in the country. And so after that, which again was October of 2019, I got a lot of publicity. I got into magazines, did blogs, met so many different people. And that happened probably around November, December, January 2020. And then COVID hit, as we know, in 2020, March of 2020. So it was, and it still is very difficult, because people are afraid to travel. And I totally understand that. We're trying to make things a little bit easier for people. So we're trying to connect with jet companies to give everything very, very exclusive and very, very private so that people feel a little bit more comfortable to go down to the Caribbean.
Are you finding that you have any people that are local already in the Caribbean that are taking advantage of the charters as opposed to going overseas?
For the local Caribbean people that I know, and I can speak from my perspective of when I used to live in the Caribbean. I used to live in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. I used to work for the Virgin Islands Department of Planning and Natural Resources, which is a government agency. And from that perspective, the locals did not charter the yachts. Mostly it was a lot of Yankees, and I can say that because I am a Yankee, a lot of foreigners, a lot of individuals from especially Canada that would come down to the Caribbean during the winter months. So I don't think the locals are really chartering, maybe swimming, but not chartering.
So where has it picked up though? Has it picked up? The U.S. is coming over now to the islands. Do you see that there's more and more people that are making inquiries for, say, 2022 and further on?
Yeah, let me speak back to when in 2020. In 2020, again, that was very difficult. I had charters that were canceled, people that were, excited about going, excited about booking, and then it would fall flat. So around July, June of 2020, I think people were hoping that 2021 things would be a lot better. And so I did have some trips, one to St. Lucia, one to the US Virgin Islands, and they loved it. They had amazing fun. The US Virgin Islands is definitely a major charter destination, especially for United States citizens, because of the COVID rules are a little bit more lax. And of course, they don't need a passport. However, for 2022, I find that my demographic and individuals that would love to charter in the Caribbean are very skeptical because everything is up in the air. I think many people thought come this time, things would have been a lot better, but now that we have the Delta variant, the Lambda, and various other variants that may come out of COVID, people are a little bit more afraid to book something.
Now, are you finding though, there is that ability, and you said already that you are looking into working with private jet companies, et cetera, because that does take a lot of the worry out of it. If you fly direct from the US on a private jet, once you arrive in whichever island that you arrive on, and a car or a limousine takes you from the landing strip directly to your yacht, is that a possibility?
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to teach people is, with your other vacations, you're not going to be exclusive. It's not going to be private, but we can work with private jet companies so that you feel more comfortable being that you're with, you and your family, or you and your friends. So everything is, or there's a safer mode of transportation because you can take a private jet. I understand that people may be able to afford the charters of a yacht, but possibly not a private jet. So that's fine. Make sure you do your best on those commercial flights. But the minute you do hit the Caribbean, again, everything is very, very private and everything is very exclusive. We'll pick you up in a black car service, so you're not in an island taxi where you're not sure about, you're not sharing a taxi, you're actually in a private vehicle. And I'll explain with my VI charter, we picked up my clients, 2 of them from a private jet, and we had them in a black car and took them directly to the marina. So again, it lessens the chance of contracting something. And then you're on your private exclusive yacht for a week, and you have your own private captain, your private chef/bartender. And for some of our yachts, you have your private host or hostess. So again, it kind of reduces significantly, and it's a safer mode of vacationing.
Now, which islands do you charter from?
So we have, again, the US Virgin Islands, we have the British Virgin Islands, Bahamas, St. Lucia, and Grenada.
Do you notice, as far as the people that are residents of those places, are they suffering hardship as a result of this? Have you noticed that things are a lot different as they have been in the past?
Absolutely. They are definitely suffering a lot, which again hurts my heart because I have a lot of Caribbean friends. Again, when I used to live in St. Thomas, I have my former coworkers, former pastor, and former friends. And because tourism in many of these islands is the #1 revenue source, because people are not traveling like they used to, people are definitely suffering a lot more economically. So anytime that I have charters or trips in the Caribbean, I definitely support local Caribbean culture, local Caribbean restaurants, clothing designers, photographers, makeup artists. That's very important to me because I want to make sure that the economics, the money, the finances will trickle down to the actual people that have been suffering the most.
Well, and realistically, I think, when you take cruise ships and you take sort of the traditional all-inclusive vacations, you don't actually get to see the real Caribbean. You don't actually get to see, taste the real Caribbean. You don't actually get to go and see those very, very special spots that aren't all that touristy. So that is something that you offer, those types of experiences.
Again, absolutely. And that's really what my company is all about. You mentioned this name of my company is Soca, Caribbean Yacht Charters. And sometimes people think it's an acronym. Soca, and it's not all capitalized, despite the fact that I've seen it that way. Soca is a musical genre out of the Caribbean. It was bred out of Trinidad and Tobago in the 1970s. And the foundation of soca music is African slaves that used to take their European slave owners' ideas of carnival and they made it into their own. And so in the 1970s in Trinidad and Tobago, soca music was bred out of calypso, which again has that foundation of African rhythms. And they added in some East Indian beats because back in after slavery ended, indentured servants were from India. And so soca music is very important to me because my company represents about having my clients go to the real part of the Caribbean. We don't believe in doing a lot of touristy things because, as you mentioned, you're not going to see the real Caribbean from a local's point of view. And so we're going to take you to the place where tourists are not usually found. It's usually locals, and you'll have that local food, that local music, such as soca music, those local drinks, local clothing designers, and things of that nature.
That excites me. I can't wait. I'm supposed to be going in December.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Where?
Well, I'm actually going to be on board the Inside Sailtrek. I will be on board a tall ship for 2.5 weeks throughout the Caribbean, all of the islands. I think majority of the islands. Yeah, so it's going to be exciting. The most exciting thing for me is, in fact, the food.
Absolutely.
It's always about food for me. One day I'm going to retire and I'm just going to travel the world and eat my way around the world. But, it doesn't matter where you are. It's all about grandma's cooking. I mean, you could go to any restaurant and they say, we are the most authentic. Well, unless it's grandma in that kitchen, I'm telling you, you're not that authentic. It's a restaurant. It's still a restaurant. But to be able to go to a local's home where they've got, the 90-year-old or the 85-year-old grandmother in the kitchen cooking dinner, that is the true experience, I think.
Yes, I agree.
And I think the food in the Caribbean is going to be something to experience.
Exactly, right? Because, I have nothing against expats, nothing absolutely. Again, I am a US citizen, but I think when you go to the Caribbean, instead of getting a burger and French fries, why don't you try doubles? Why don't you try a Johnny cake? These are things that are very local to the Caribbean, plantain and kava and just different things. And you're not really going to find that anywhere else. You can eat a cheeseburger and French fries anywhere, but those type of foods that I mentioned, jerk, curry, goat, I mean, all of that, you're going to find that in the Caribbean and you're going to definitely enjoy it. And again, that's what my company is all about, showing you the real Caribbean.
I think the thing is, though, is what happens is that you do have a certain segment of the population. It doesn't matter whether they're US tourists or, expats from anywhere in the world. They're looking for a vacation that is at home, but with nicer weather. That's really what they're looking for. But we are seeing a brand new breed of ultra high net worth individuals that are looking for the true authentic feel. And not, you see companies such as yourself stating that, we are going to show you the real area, wherever in the world it may be. We're going to show you the real area, because these people, they're bringing their kids. They want their kids to experience culture. They want their kids to have some learning experiences while they're there. This is something that I think is going to be changing. Well, it is changing already, but I think in the next year or two, we're going to see it completely change.
I agree. I totally agree. And then here's the other thing. I'm big on traveling. In college, I studied abroad at Oxford University, a program at Oxford University in England. I studied abroad in South Africa, and I've traveled a lot, India and in various places. And as I tell people, I travel not only because it's fun, but learning about other people teaches me about myself. So I can recall in South Africa walking down the street and someone said, "Hey, you're from the US." And I'm looking at my shirt reel, like, do I have a Coke shirt on? I'm like, do I have a Coca-Cola in my left hand? But they said, no, it's the way you guys walk. You walk with your head held a certain way. And I would never have known that but for the fact of traveling. In India, everything went totally wrong for that trip. Right before I went to the Taj Mahal, my shoes broke. We had to find someone and purchase shoes. And that person gave me shoes for free. And I went to hug them because in the US, to show emotion, to show thanks, we'll hug. But I had to remember their culture. This is a man, I'm not permitted to attack him with a hug. And so again, it's taught me a lot about myself and it teaches me about other people. And so again, when people book with my company, you're going to learn a lot about other people's cultures, but you're also going to reflect and learn about yourself as well.
Well, and that's one thing about the Caribbean as well, is it's not just one culture. There are so many different cultures in the Caribbean. You've got the Dutch, you've got the British, you've got, the African,
English.
The French, yeah. I mean, it is I can imagine almost every nationality on the face of the planet is somewhere in the Caribbean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely agree. And I'm glad you made that point too, because I've heard of people saying, oh, we've been to the Caribbean, we've been to this certain hotel in the Bahamas, or we've been to the VI. Well, number one, you didn't go with my company. And because I used to live in the Caribbean and travel extensively in the Caribbean, I'm going to show you that from a different perspective. But number two is exactly what you mentioned. You may have seen the Bahamas or Grenada or St. Lucia from a more hotel perspective, but you didn't go to the various communities. And so from one community to the next, you could hear various languages, various dialects, various religions, various cultures, because even communities within a 5 or 10-mile radius could be different. So again, you know everything, so absolutely.
Well, you know what, Sheila, I really strongly recommend anybody out there that is looking to charter in the Caribbean to contact your company. We are definitely going to supply all of that information below this interview when it airs. Where do you see yourself being in the next couple of years? Where do you see the Caribbean and your charter company sort of moving?
Yeah, great question. So one thing I would love to get into would be super yachts eventually. So the next few years, I want to focus more on adding 100, 150 feet yachts.
Yeah.
I do have some clients that are a little bit more high end. So I think they definitely want that. So that's one thing I definitely want to do is bring in those super yachts to the Caribbean, again, from Soca's perspective. I eventually want to start a kids club called Soca Yacht Kids Club, and that will be helping inner city youth to learn about the water, learning how to boat, learning how to sail, learning about environmental law, learning how to fish, learning how to swim. If I haven't said that, learning how to swim, because a lot of inner city youth, they only focus on what they've seen. And sometimes water, they've never been swimming, they've never been to a beach. And so I really want to bring that to youth that only has one perspective on life. And I do think that these kind of recreational activities will be able to help them to maybe even find a career. Maybe I can get a captain out of it, or a stewardess, or a marine biologist, or a engineer out of it, or even an entrepreneur that wants to start his or her own company. And then thirdly, although I'm very, very huge in the Caribbean, eventually, not now, but probably within the next 5 years, or probably 5 years plus, not within the next 5 years, but 5 years plus, I would like to open up to the Mediterranean. And that is because I do have persons that I've already chartered extensively throughout the Caribbean, and they do want a different look. But for right now, it's all about the Caribbean.
Baby steps, baby steps.
Exactly.
You know what? I always say I'm going to take over the world one day, but I've got to take my steps on the way there. So it sounds like you're about the same way.
Yes, baby steps.
Sheila, you know what? It is always an absolute pleasure to speak with you. And you know what? I would love to, work with you when you are able to set up for the inner city kids. I'd love to be able to be part of that and to get the word out there and do what we can to help you from this end.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that. But again, baby steps. So who
Yeah,
knows
well,
when that
you
will
know
happen.
what? We're going to be here. We're going to be here, and you're going to be there. And whether it be 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years from now, we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. You always have my back and vice versa.
Listen, everyone, once again, all of the information for Sheila is down below this interview. If you are thinking about chartering a yacht in the Caribbean and you want to experience the real Caribbean, definitely check her out and contact her. Thank you, Sheila, for your time. It's always greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well.
Once again, this has been Sheila Ruffin. She is the boss at Soca Caribbean Yacht Charters. You've been watching another edition of Inside Sailtrek, Secrets of the Caribbean. My name is Ria. I have been your host. Please tune in again next week for another episode.